my first question is, what the effective strategies should be taken to increase the hiring rate?
Very good question, because jobs, of course, are critically important. One of the things that the Harper government has proposed and is continuing to do is to give major tax breaks to the large corporations to the tune of approximately $6 billion. The problem with that, and I'm a big supporter of strong competitive corporate taxes, but the problem with that is that those tax breaks are given to only the top 5% of all of the Canadian corporations, the top 5 wealthiest corporations. But we know in Canada by far the largest job creators are the small and medium enterprises, which we have very, very many of here in the GTA, especially from New Canadians, small and medium enterprises. And yet the Harper government increased payroll taxes on those small and medium enterprises and are giving tax breaks only to those, the largest 5% of all companies. So as a business person, as a former business person, former entrepreneur, I understand the importance of encouraging small and medium enterprises. Those are the ones who create the jobs. And as well, particularly, we need to take advantage of the opportunities presented by having so many people here from other countries, so many people here from China, so many people here from Hong Kong, from Taiwan, from India, from Brazil, from all of these other countries where we need to be engaging in much more trade. Those are the economic opportunities that we here in Canada can take advantage of, and those are the opportunities that have not been capitalized on at all. I'll repeat again, this government, the Harper government, is proposing massive tax breaks to the largest 5% of Canadian corporations that none of the rest of Canadian companies benefit from. We need to support small and medium enterprises in order to really create the jobs that will drive the Canadian economy forward.
Thank you. So now the term is Mr. Lang. You have 2 minutes.
Mark, I don't quite see it that way because, first of all, we now know that small to medium-sized business is the backbone of our economy. And I also am a businessman, and I've been in business for the last 40 years in Canada. I have also worked in public accounting as well as large and small to medium-sized corporations, as well as being an entrepreneur myself. It is vitally important that we should lower our taxes to be competitive with the world. We see these examples in Singapore and Hong Kong where taxes are reduced down to about 15-16%. And we know that a lower tax regime will attract foreign investment. It will encourage entrepreneurs to reinvest in their own economy and thereby creating jobs. And yes, the large corporations, as with any corporations in our 21st century, has the smarts that they don't necessarily have to invest their money here if they're being chased away with higher taxes that are job-killing taxes. So more specifically, how the Conservative government hope to improve the hiring rate is that we propose to give a unemployment insurance subsidy for new hires in the budget. And I think the lower tax regime is the way to go. And those of you who come from Asia, who come from other parts of the world, would realize that these lower taxes is an incentive for people to reinvest in the economy.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Now let's begin the debate. The candidate can jump in and participate at any time for 5 minutes on this topic. The panel will reserve the right to ask the follow-up questions during the debate. So go ahead, candidates.
Well, I'd like to just respond and in fact repeat that I'm a strong supporter of competitive corporate taxes, but Canada's corporate taxes are already very, very competitive. And in terms of international investment, in terms of attracting international investment, Canadian tax rates need be competitive, but they don't need to be lower. The other challenge, and our corporate tax rates already are competitive. The challenge that we have also in reducing and giving these tax breaks to the largest corporations is that we are in a massive deficit. And to give a $6 billion tax break to the 5% wealthiest corporations, when to do so, we have to, as a country, have to borrow more money to give to them, makes absolutely no sense. It makes sense to do what you can when you're in a surplus position, which the Harper government inherited 5 years ago, but we're now in a massive deficit, and it's simply the wrong time to do it. I will also repeat that, yes, payroll taxes, which the Harper government increased, are a net negative to job creation in this country for the small and medium enterprises.
Let's look at some specific examples. If you look at places like Japan, Taiwan, or Hong Kong, and these are places where I have worked, the tax rate there is 15%. And we can see that that is an actual stimulus to keep reinvestment in those countries. I mean, to raise, this is, the 15% rate is something that was passed at the last budget, and your government, your party and the NDP have all agreed to it. What you're proposing is to raise that back from the 15% back to 18%. I think that is a raising of taxes. Now, with respect to the stimulus program, yes, we did incur a $56 billion deficit, but that was Canada's economic action plan to address a financial decline of that time. If we didn't do that, again, your party agreed to that.
With all due respect, the $56 billion deficit is not the economic stimulus. The economic stimulus package, which we agreed to for that particular purpose in the recession, forms only a small part of that. The Harper government had Canada into a deficit position before the recession even hit. You cannot blame the Conservative deficit on the recession or the economic stimulus. If you take the economic stimulus numbers out of the equation, you take those out, the Harper government still has had the four largest spending budgets in Canadian history. As a business person, I see this incredibly wasteful spending getting us into a major deficit as being one of the things that creates an even less competitive situation in Canada.
I share that with you.
Well, the numbers don't lie.
The numbers may not lie, but they certainly did not explain the fact that there are programs that we have put in to improve the infrastructure of Canada. There are programs that we have put in to keep our military strong with the right equipment they need to do the job they need to do.
$1 billion for the G20 one day alone in Toronto is not building Canada.
That was Canada's role to put us on the international arena to demonstrate that we have a place in Canada.
$1 billion for one day.
I would think that all the other nations that are hosts would have to step up to the plate. If it was your turn to host a Thanksgiving dinner, you would not spare when it's your turn.
I will cook well, but I won't waste money.
Can I have one question as I interrupt? Two candidates mentioned the huge government spending and the result, the deficit, the huge deficit. But for this policy itself, lowering the corporate tax to improve the employee rate. So does two candidate has any concrete result or proof that such measure actually improve the hiring rate or doesn't help much?
Well, in fact, the Globe and Mail just came out with another study that reinforces exactly what we've been saying, that a tax break for the largest companies does not and has not, in fact, increased employment. Every study will say that the job creation in this country, in Canada, is by far and away created by the small and medium enterprises. Small and medium enterprises do not benefit from these tax cuts. These tax breaks only go to the largest 5%. Our Liberal position is that we must support small and medium enterprises in order for them to continue their job creation. And we know here in the GTA that most of the new Canadians who've come have really benefited from that.
We won't have time for this topic. Let's move on to the next question. But firstly, let's have a break.
You get to go first this time.